Hey, what's going on, guys? Shane here. Today I have the Double Eagle M4 line Falcon Gearbox. I took it apart completely and I'm going to throw my overhead camera on and we're going to talk about some of the internals. I looked all over, I could not find a breakdown of this. There might be a video, but I was looking for just some pictures and stuff and I could not find it. So I figured, hey, I got like 3 of these things, I might as well break one down and take a look at it. Plus that, it could have some better shimming done, that's for sure, just from the sound of the gearbox. I'll probably re-shim it while I'm in there. Might replace a few parts, I don't know. Today I'm just going to give you a breakdown and kind of show you the components and kind of judge them, alright? Let's dig in. First things first, taking this thing apart was a beast, dude. This replica is rough, tough, and hard to work on, I'll tell you that right now. So it's got, all these are inserts. Like normally you have to do a push pin out of maybe a bolt release or something like that. Well, every single one of those has these little pieces where all the pieces fit into. I had to push out a lot of tiny little bitty pins. It was really difficult. If you don't have a very good tool set, don't do it because you're going to need a lot of very small punches and things like that. Also, the gearbox, while we're on that topic, is all the screws in it are Torx bits, all of them. Which I was like, oh my god, who puts Torx bits on something like that? That's supposed to be a like a security bit. So I guess they really didn't want you to open it, and they were not kidding around. It does have a quick change spring. You can take the stock off, and then you stick a screwdriver down there and pull the spring out. So you're able to pull the spring out by the stock coming off. It's okay, whatever. First thing I noticed when I pulled the spring guide out, it is actually a pretty nice spring guide. It is super metal. It's no joke, right? And it also has bearings. So there's bearings right there. So it actually is a really nice spring guide. And it connects on, it's what holds the stock on, so I'd expect it to be pretty awesome. Alright, so after I finally got this gearbox off, this is the outside of the gearbox. It actually looks really nice. Very kind of a matte tone. And it has these bushings here. It said they're 8mm. Yeah. So, yeah, they're 8mm. Then they do the bearing on the bevel gear here, so they have that. The gearbox is radius. It's definitely a little more stout. It's got some extra metal back here, and I think that has to do with the stock sitting on there, right? So here's the hop-up. It's a rotary style hop-up. I already took it all apart. It does have, the nub is kind of like the Crytek nubs, where they go inside, or maybe it's KWA. It's either KWA or Crytek, but the nub actually fits in there, so that is kind of nice. I really do enjoy that. It has a rotary hop-up. One thing I did like about it is that instead of a brass collar, it comes with this locking device, right? It's not brass, it's like some other type of, or it's not like a little brass one, it's some other type of metal. But it actually clicks into the hop-up, creating an extremely snug fit, which is really awesome. It's definitely not top down and centered very well, so I mean, you know, it leaves a lot to be desired. However, I will say that it's one of the better hop-ups I've seen on a gun at this price point, right? It does have ambidextrous trigger controls, but the problem is that everything sits in the gearbox, so you have to take both of the selector switches off. There's like an extra bolt here that I don't even know what it goes to off. All this stuff, like, it's a lot to get out of there, so just be ready whenever you when you go into this thing. Motor, it's definitely not a Neo motor or anything, very easy to turn. Motor leaves a lot to be desired, to be honest. Rate of fire is not helped by this thing at all. If there's one thing I was going to replace right off the bat, it would absolutely be this motor for sure. Alright, going to the gears, very basic gears. A little bit extra on the old grease on this one. However, the rest of them were fairly well greased. Wasn't too much. Yeah, they dumped a little bit on this tire reversal latch here. Yeah, basic gears. Looks like the shimming is decent. I don't see any scratches from me railing on it a little bit, so that's good. Delay chip, sector gear, normal sector gear. I'm sure they're cast, you know, they don't look CNC'd or anything like that, but not bad by any means, for sure. So this is their MOSFET, which is one I was kind of interested in. So it's actually a two-part MOSFET. So we have this side with some chips and different things and sensors in it, and then we have this side. It actually sits on like that, and then you pull it off. There's some optical switches in here. This is an optical MOSFET because you can actually change the trigger sensitivity and everything like that, and it's all optical. So there's no switches, it's all optical, which is nice. It does come with a nice flat trigger. I like it. It has really good trigger sensitivity right off the bat. However, to make it even better, I'm probably going to take some heat shrink and put a piece of heat shrink on here and shrink it down, and then that'll add just that little, maybe like half a millimeter to a millimeter worth of bulk on the back of it. It'll actually make the trigger pull that much better, right? Because we want it to be like tap, 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 tap. It does have nice silver wiring, comes wired to Dean's right off the bat, cool. Everything overall is pretty good. I don't really have a problem with too much that we've seen so far. So tappet plate, you know, it's got a cool little yellow tappet plate, whatever. How I rate these things is two things. Is it stiff right here? Because that's where I come into a lot of problems, right? And then also, how good is the lip on the front? You can't really see that with the setup I've got because of the yellow, but it's got a good sized lip right there. You know, I shave off the front of this just to give the tappet just a little bit more forward play. That helps your nozzle go in just a tiny bit more. It's like 1/10 of a millimeter, but it does make a difference. Get the nozzle perfect and then glue it in. I just think it works better that way. It works better for me at least. Very, very stout tappet spring. This thing is very stout compared to a lot of the tappet springs I've seen. It's actually a lot thicker too. Thicker and larger. Very interesting. Okay, piston. We got this teal looking piston. They got some serious pastel stuff going on with this. So it does have a bearing piston head from what I can see. It's some type of poly. It's vented. Some type of poly. It's vented. O-ring. Nothing special. Just real basic. Three steel teeth on there. Okay, cool. Yeah, nothing basic. Yeah, very basic. Nothing special. Piston head. I would have liked to see a double O-ring piston head, but honestly, single O-ring and then lube properly and everything, it works pretty well. A little bit of a cushion here. You can see where the piston head's been sitting, so it's been sitting there pretty well. Cylinder's pretty good. Not super polished, but it'll do the job, that's for sure. Alright, so we talked about the motor, spring guide. Let's take a look at compression on this thing. Let's see how it is. So we're just going to stick it in there just like it was, put the piston in here. Okay, it's got pretty good compression. I'm actually kind of surprised. Alright, actually, yeah, it's holding. That's great compression. Well, that's actually very surprising. Yeah, good compression. Just needs a little extra lubrication from what I can tell. The MOSFET's really cool. I like it. Overall, I'm actually fairly impressed with this gearbox. Yeah. They use a combination of Allen keys, Torx bits. You need a flat head. You need pin punches. I mean, this thing is a pain in the to actually open up, like 100%. So this is going to be something you want to build up real nice, leave it. Don't do anything else to it, and hopefully it'll run forever. Because, yeah, this is a pain in the butt. I'm not going to lie. So I'd say I'm fairly impressed with this gearbox. I mean, I think considering it's like a $170, maybe $200 replica, I think it's done pretty well. The compression was good off the bat. There's nothing worse than taking apart a replica and you take your finger, put it over that cylinder head, push the piston in, and it just all the way to the hilt right at the beginning, right? So it held pressure good. Gears look decent. I do like the MOSFET. It's optical. I think they're doing a good job with that. Overall, I'd say I'm fairly impressed by it. Yeah, I'd say so. Like, I'm actually really like this. If the shimming would have been a little bit better off the bat, I think I would have been able to say, like, hell yeah, go get it. But the shimming left a lot to be desired whenever you hear it. It's a little squeaky, a little grindy, but you can easily redo shimming. The only thing I will say, con-wise, taking that thing apart was terrible. Oh my gosh. Time-consuming. There's just a lot of small little parts I'm going to have to put back together. I totally forgot about the nozzle. There's not an O-ring on the inside of this. Definitely need an O-ring. Let me do another pressure test. That's my bad, guys. It's the first kind of breakdown video I've done. Alright, yeah, so that is where your compression inconsistency is going to come from, is going to be that nozzle right there because of that no O-ring, and it's not greased or anything. I'm pretty sure I could take some of the, well, here, let's see. I'm just going to take some of this disgusting extra grease off this anti-reversal latch, and I'm going to throw it on this, and then I'm going to see if that makes a difference right off the bat. Let's twist this down. There we go. Throw it in there. Boom. Look at that seal. Look at that. It ain't going nowhere, dude. Yeah, so lubrication is a huge thing. You have to properly lubricate everything. I got about 5 different types of lubricant that I use in the gearbox. Very important. But anyway, that's a breakdown of the Falcon Gearbox. I'd say on a 1 to 10 scale, I'd give it a solid 5 or 6. Not a bad gearbox. I think the parts are decent. Definitely some places they could have stepped their game up a little bit, like the O-ring on the nozzle. I feel like that's like common knowledge. That's going to help your compression out a lot. But if you grease it properly, yeah, it'll work well. Hop-up was good. The worst thing about it, like I said before, was just getting the dang thing apart. Not the gearbox itself, but just the replica itself. Not fun. I did not enjoy that. It took a little bit more work than I like to do getting one out. And then, using flathead Phillips Torques and punches and a bunch of different tools. So I like to make things pretty easy. It definitely did not do that, but that's okay. 5 out of 5 or 6, I'd say buy it. I think they're good money for their value. Gearbox is decent. Optical MOSFET. Hey, I call that a win. Anyway, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Shameless plug. And thanks for watching this video, and thanks for stopping by.